Stephen Shields Radio Show.
Shields Radio Show. Hope he's all well. It was a bit of a hot day actually today. It was great to have some pizza tonight. Have some pizza and pre-ordered the new 2K PGA 2K25 game as well. So I've done that, and that's been fantastic. That when you pre-order a game and then it's available, how good is that? So it's one of those things where just feels great to have. But anyway, as for an update on the two Bankstown nurses this week, one of them got charged by the police for making anti-Semitic comments. Now, these are very serious charges. That's happened. Okay. Basically, the female nurse, Sarah Abu Lebda, 26 years old, is facing serious charges from that conversation with Israeli influencer Max Weifer. Now, obviously, the Australian Police Force, the Australian government is cracking down on anti-Semitism, which is good. I said it on another show I did before this is going to be released, that it doesn't matter what religion you are in healthcare, you have a right to have healthcare. Okay. So I was quite upset when this video came out of anti-Semitism like this. I mean, what I saw was just, I was outraged, basically. This investigation has been quite a lot of work involved because of language translations that have happened. Ahmed Rashad Nadir as well, and Sarah Abu Lebda they've basically been stood down from New South Wales Health. But obviously the police commissioner, Karen Webb, has stated that there's a delay in the investigation. Okay. So it needs to get more evidence for this case that has happened. Which to me, I feel that it needs to be dealt with, because something like this, to me, was quite wrong. You got Chinese warships heading toward our way for some reason, so I don't know what's caused that. That's happened recently. Is it true that that the Australian Defence Force need to have more funding as well. So that's quite a possibility. I don't know. That's up to the defense minister and the government to be dealing with that stuff. Okay. I did want to obviously talk about stuff like this. There's other problems too going on with the National Disability Insurance Scheme of concerns that criminals, sex offenders, terrorists possibly getting funding to the National Disability Insurance Scheme. How the hell are they accessing the NDIS as high-risk people? Now, that saddens me because that affects me. Okay. You can read more about it on the Daily Telegraph as well, about how could this be possible that people at a high risk are getting access to the national NDIS. I mean, that money's supposed to be helping people with disabilities, not to be taken advantage of. So there's been a lot of complaints into stuff like this, because you got to look at it from people who need the service. And no one should be taken advantage of in the scheme as well, at all. Because to me, that gets very sad. You remember a couple of episodes ago I talked about the cult in Toowoomba, Queensland, and a family who basically committed manslaughter to their daughter, Elizabeth Rose Strauss, 8 years old. She died in Toowoomba in January 2022 because the parents, Jason and Kerry Strauss, they stopped giving her the life-saving medication that was to treat type 1 diabetes, because they thought they would put their faith in God and pray all the time to pray for diabetes away. And even these cult members are facing a long jail term, and they've been sentenced. Okay. Justin Martin Burns, he's sentenced Elizabeth's father, Jason Strauss, 14 years prison. And that's what happened. You can read about it online if you want. But how could it get to the point where people think that they get so caught up in this whole cult and religious fanaticism, and then poor 8-year-old girl who's type 1 diabetes, she lost her life because they thought, oh, we can pray away diabetes and put, quote, faith in God. And even the judge was quite distressed. He said, point to me in the Bible where you got this from. Okay. And when the police raided them, okay, to me, some of these members didn't seem to care. They thought it was a laughing matter. Okay. And such a sad thing that happens like this. I couldn't believe it. Now, the leader of this cult was Brendan Luke Stevens. Okay. I feel that yeah, this is quite sad. That this has happened. Basically, yeah, people get brainwashed by this stuff, and it's just not good at all. And so that's what's happened recently. So they've faced quite long jail sentences, and that's what's happened. Now, as we go back to anti-Semitism, okay, when these two Muslim healthcare workers came out with this, it really did shock me. Okay. There was a Free Palestine protest at the Sydney Opera House in 2023 when all this stuff happened. But has the state government really honestly dealt with anti-Semitism properly? And is politicians using anti-Semitism just to gain political votes out of people? So that's my concerns, of course. Okay. As they speak about healthcare, is it true that people in Australia, is it getting to the point where people in Australia are unable to afford medications and the pharmacists are calling more cuts, apparently subsidies for medications for Australian people? Okay. So it's very important that we get our medications, okay, and the government can help people with their medications as well. All right. Has Anthony Albanese done the best he has in his 4 years as Prime Minister? That's going to be a question for the next election. Okay. How come there was Chinese warships doing live practice drills in Australian waters? Then clearly something's going on. So, yeah. It's, to me, Doesn't that ring an alarm bell for everyone? Now, inflation, Reserve Bank of Australia. Is it likely that we're going to see low interest rates and more rate cuts in the future? I'm not an economist, okay? At one point in the 1980s, people were paying 17% on mortgages, okay? And then there was a 40-year decline. There was low rates until at least 2020. Now, this could be a lot of factors. Pandemic, of course, things shut down, the economy shut down. Okay. Now, apparently, if rates are going up 6 to 8%, it's going to put pressure on homeowners. Whether the RBA cut their rates to 1%, 2%, 3%, I don't know. Inflation's going up and down every week. It's always changing. But that's what's happening. On the March 1st, new laws are taking effect. Centrelink, Medicare, vape changes, of course. Laws with Medicare immunisation registers as well, car safety laws. Importing of Bengal cats as well. They're not going to be permitted into Australia, apparently. It's going to fall under the Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act 1999. The Bengal cats, they're basically a crossbred between domestic and Asian leopard cat. Yeah, so that's will be what's going on. Basically, they're a hybrid of a domestic cat, of course, but they're at least 5. Basically, it's a cat that I think they've been imported into Australia. Okay. So that's what's going on. Now, apparently, therapeutic vapes as well are going to be regulated by the government as well. So that's going to happen. I don't know what the TGA is going to do with vaping. If they're going to do plain packaging or whatever and then regulate it, which they all want to do. The government want to regulate everything. I want to tax everything, okay? I'm just reading from what my research on the news is. This is not coming from me. Obviously, takeaway home delivery liquor changing as well. Driving test criteria, overseas license holders, and medicinal cannabis in Victoria. From March 1st. Apparently, they no longer lose their license if they're caught with traces of the drug in the system, quote Daily Telegraph. So apparently they got to hold a valid prescription for it. That's obviously in Victoria. Okay. Yeah, every year laws change in Australia. I'm sure they change all over the world. I feel that some laws are good, some don't make sense, some are bullshit as well. But as I've said quite a lot of times, that yeah, I am certainly worried about the future of Australia. Parts of councils in the city only collecting bins once a fortnight. At least you having your red bin overflowing is not healthy. It's not safe for the community. It's littering as well. Okay. Depends on most councils would collect. I would assume you get your garbage collected once a week, your red bin, and once a fortnight is the recycling bin. And that's unfortunately what it is. But to have bins overflowing in certain areas, basically, I think it's the bigger the bin, the more extra rates you've got to pay on top of it for your rates. And that to me is just stuff like that. I mean, rates, unfortunately, when you own your own house, you have to pay your rates. That's part of life, I guess. As you know, guys, the Victorian farm has been infected with the bird flu, the avian flu. So there's been a warning that's happened out there as well. This was found in a Victorian farm as of lately. Sam Burgess, guys, had problems getting his visa, but I think now he's able to get his visa to go to Las Vegas. Quite a few footy players had problems with visas to go and play the first round of the NRL in Las Vegas because of past criminal issues that they've had. And it can get quite complicated, but hopefully players get that stuff sorted out and they can go and play. So Sam Burgess had problems with it too. As you know, I talk about councils a lot. Apparently, Winge-Carriby Shire Council, the staff have threatened action because of bullying and harassment going on in the Southern Highlands and Bowral, Mossvale, Mittagong. There's at least 350 union members around. So I don't know what the culture is going on in council places. That to me, I get fed up with all this stuff. Unions playing politics, bullying and harassment going on in politics everywhere as well. And councils really not fixing our roads, fixing our parks, fixing up potholes on the road. Not my, yeah. And people just get frustrated with it. Like I said, you pay your rate money. It's your hard-earned money that you're paying, and then you feel like it's just going nowhere. But hey, that's Australia. This is what we're living in now. Basically, Warragamba Dam, it's the main supplier for the drinking water. Apparently, there's an investment to help improve the safety of the Hawkesbury Nepean River that's going on. So, environmental water releases, basically 3,000 megalitres to be released every day. And, the Warragamba dams, the gates, they automatically are opening when it's reached full capacity. You look at back in 2022 when we had all that rain and all the floods, Windsor Bridge was submerged in flood water. But if apparently you're pre-releasing floodwaters, will it increase risk to life? Okay. Because the Hawkesbury and Nepean River, it's the largest river in the state. It goes around 22,000 square kilometres. So apparently the construction works are hopefully going to create 125 construction jobs, 440 tonnes of piping and valves, 80 tonnes of reinforced steel, and 1,100 M3 worth of concrete, quote Daily Telegraph. Yeah, I mean, obviously we have to see an improvement in Warragamba Dam as well. Now, you guys remember the show, if you've ever watched Home and Away. Now, I never got into watching Home and Away or The Bold and the Beautiful. Probably, how long have these soap operas been going? Over 35 years at least. Lynn McGregor's made a major announcement to walk away from Home and Away. Okay. But yeah, it's like 14-hour days on the set as well. But it's interesting. How does a soap opera go on for over 20 years? Now, the show Neighbours as well, if you remember that. It's just interesting how in show business, not many shows can go on for that long. But that's a soap opera for you. Max Premium streaming service is going to be launched in Australia soon. Again, streaming services. I keep talking about streaming services. HBO Originals going to be on this new streaming service. Paramount Plus and all that. I don't know. It drives my head in, all these streaming services. Yeah, I went to the library today and I just borrowed some DVDs because I was looking for Drive to Survive to get that on DVD, because that's obviously a Netflix show and that's Formula One, but the trouble is they don't all make shows on DVDs anymore. You should watch the Streaming Wars by South Park. You will see that they kind of did predict how all this stuff was going to happen. It just becomes so chaotic. And you just can drive my head in, honestly. Dolly Parton has joined with the Wiggles. I think she's doing collaboration, or she's joined the Wiggles, if you remember the Wiggles. Okay. Now, I talked about as well Sam Constance. He's had some criticism from the media. Definitely, I think he's got a lot of talent. I think he's got potential for the Australian Test side as well, even the one-day team. It was some criticisms during the summer. He would make a 50 in the first innings, but then be out with a duck in the second innings. Okay. Obviously, Australia learned a lot from the losing their ODIs against Sri Lanka as well. I'd like to see Adam Zampa in the Test squad, be playing Test cricket. Adam Zampa, leg spin bowler. I'd like to have him in the Test side. I think that would be good. I think the Australian cricket selectors can be a bit harsh at times. I mean, Sam Constance has still got to gain experience somehow, and the idea that they sent him home from Sri Lanka after, during the practice squad to go play first-class cricket and getting bowled out by Scott Boland in a Sheffield Shield match trying to play a sweep shot. I guess this is learning experience as a batsman. Okay. Former Bulldogs player coach Bob Hagan, Obert. Bob Hagan. Sorry if I've pronounced that wrong. My apologies. This is from Daily Telegraph. Former Queensland, New South Wales and Australian player Bob Hagan has passed away on the Sunshine Coast. Hagan spent nearly 4 decades at Canterbury, joining as a player in 1967 before being appointed club CEO in 1996, quote Daily Telegraph. Yeah, it's quite sad. He's 85 years old. And, he was player number 324, arrived in Belmore in 1967, and he played a grand final against South Sydney in the same year. Played 45 first-grade matches for Canterbury, and then he later on became the club's head coach. And he was CEO in 1996 for 7 seasons. So that's just recently happened. And It's interesting how much history the Canterbury Bulldogs have. Hopefully, yeah. And Super Coach as well. Don't forget, if you're playing Super Coach this year, to pick your squad. There's obviously some key players you want in your Super Coach side. If you can get Nathan Cleary in your team, and some good players also too, a couple of cheapies hanging around. Don't forget, players are going to get injured. I care more about me centres and me forwards as well, and on the edge, because those are the players that you find your centres get injured the most. But the trouble is, you get a star halfback who's going to take up half your salary cap, and then he gets injured. What do? You trade him out, because He's just sitting on the bench. So we'll wait and see how this goes. Yeah, AI, artificial intelligence, can get disgusting at times, and there was a AI image of apparently Donald Trump kissing Elon Musk's feet because of hackers that were able to get on top of this stuff. Now, there are laws in Australia. This is an AI generated image that has happened recently. I feel that, yeah, obviously, as AI does come around, there are things to consider of the bad sides of artificial intelligence. And like I said, there are laws about how you can and can't use artificial intelligence as well. So that's happened too. Yeah, guys, I wanted to talk too about psychology sessions. And there's been even studies backed up about how 10 sessions does not do enough for people suffering through mental health problems and a mental health crisis. Okay. If the government can get subsidized sessions to 20, that would be a possibility. So that's hopefully that can happen. When you're suffering from anxiety, depression, trauma. So yeah. But if Medicare can cover more subsidized sessions, that would be a help, because like I said, not everyone can afford private practice. Especially in remote rural areas of Australia where if people are unemployed, they can't. So they have to rely on the Medicare service. And not all private practices want to deal with Medicare. You see? Yet people say, yes, it's important to go and seek professional help, which I do agree with. However, if you can't afford to pay for it, like a United States healthcare system, if you don't have the money, well, then how do you get the help that you need? But that's how it is. That's what's going on. That's what inflation does. And when there's a mental health care crisis as well, that's happened. Yeah, is it possible that we should be taking Donald Trump seriously? Was Donald Trump right the whole time? He wrote a book, The Art of the Deal. I mean, politics has changed since 2016 when Donald Trump was elected. Okay. It's interesting when you see Donald Trump's bizarre handshake to Emmanuel Macron. Now, what is the meaning behind the handshake? between Emmanuel Macron and Donald Trump as well. So yeah, it's and you got Melania Trump's made return to the White House recently as well. So that's happened too. Now, urgent healthcare clinics are important under the Labor government. They're basically, Labor is saying that if the Liberals get in power, they're threatening to cut Medicare services and stuff like that. Anthony Albanese still hasn't announced the next election as well. So that's happened. So we're still waiting to find out on the next election. Now, I did want to talk about Welcome to Country, and I think, was Welcome to Country necessary to have at every sporting event? Cost taxpayers a lot of money to have Welcome to Country ceremonies. But was Welcome to Country necessary for us? Okay. Yeah, that's what I'd like to find out. And remember the failed voice referendum that was going to happen. It was going to literally divide Australia. That didn't go through. But you remember the Bali 9 were released from prison as well. And that happened. Now you got one of the bureaucrat officials. She spent $19,200 in desk storage from taxpayer funds. I don't understand how bureaucrats, politicians are able to use taxpayers' money for their own personal gain and their own personal benefit. Okay. Obviously, the NRL in Las Vegas as well. It's been great to get the NRL over to Las Vegas. Okay. It's yeah. Been wonderful to see this and help the NRL grow overseas too. So that's what's happened. And obviously, as Peter V'landys said, it's been a learning curve for all the team to accommodate and how they can improve for every event that they play the NRL over there, because it costs the NRL thousands of dollars to transport all those equipment and all that. So it's a lot of work behind the scenes, and yeah, it should be a great event to get the game going. The ACCC is also concerned about the discounts in Woolworths and Coles. They've put supermarkets on notice as well. Price gouging, which that did happen. And obviously in a challenging time in the Australian economy. And that's what's happened. Michael Schumacher, as we know, Michael Schumacher had that skiing incident. But his wife broke her silence because of the quote, far too lenient sentence handed down following a $24 million blackmail plot against the Formula One legend, quote. Karina Schumacher has sought to appeal the trial verdict handed out to, quote, mastermind behind the shocking case, Daily Telegraph. Yeah, people tried to blackmail them to publish personal information on the dark web, and they wanted money out of it. We haven't heard from Michael Schumacher. He's been very quiet ever since the skiing accident. We don't hear anything from what's happened since then. Okay. Now, McLaren as well for this year's Formula One, Oscar Piastri, quite possibly if he can push for more pole positions, because Lando Norris was out qualifying him on at least 21 occasions last year. So if Oscar Piastri can focus on his qualifying, getting those starts, then yeah, that would be how it is. Qualifying is very important in car racing. Like I said, Formula One rules, they change every year. They're getting rid of the fastest lap, which I think that's stupid. Because fastest lap was the best. At least it gave you a point to look forward to. McLaren was the 2024 Constructors' Champions. Okay. And obviously the new car regulations come into effect in 2026 when they're changing regulations. So that's happening. Yeah. There was an Australian woman. There was 6 crews who travelled in space with Jeff Bezos on the Blue Origin flight. It's interesting how people are wanting to go and explore space. Okay. So that's happened recently as well. So that's what's going on. Elaine Chia Hyde became the first Australian woman to travel into space as part of a 6-person Blue Origin crew, quote, Daily Telegraph. Yeah. Yeah, it's just interesting. Is it true that we need to explore space? Do we need to go to space? What is there to do in space? I'll let you answer that. Yeah, so that's what's going on. You know what? As you know, in the music industry, you've heard of Midnight Oil, all these legend musicians. There's been a pub, the Gasometer Hotel in Melbourne. They're going to close the doors on the 31st of March, which sucks because this has to be for nightlife, I guess. So that's been happening. Jimmy Barnes as well's diagnosis, and apparently he's planning a tour that should be happening soon, which would be great to see him performing again. So that's yeah, how it is. Obviously, he's had health battles and he's had to take a break from performing. He went and had open heart surgery in 2023, and because of a bacterial infection that spread to the heart valve, that happened. And because August last year, Jimmy Barnes actually had an infection to his hip. He was on his tour, and then he ended up in the ICU as well. So hopefully he can make his return to on stage. And yeah, see how it goes. And Drake as well had a party, and that's what's happened. And yeah, there's Billie Eilish fans have been camping out of Sydney venue days, at least 4 days before a concert. They've been camping out the Kudos Bank Arena. At like 5:30 a.m. in the morning around Olympic Park. Man, that's crazy. So that's what's been happening. I don't know, yeah. But I hope you've enjoyed tonight's episode, guys, of the Stephen Shields radio show. Please subscribe to the podcast and turn on your notifications. I've updated new products on Pond 5 and Motion Elements as well, so feel free to check them out. Wish everyone all the best. Bye for now.